Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everybody. We're here today with Paul. Paul is a concerned citizen of Surrey B.C. and for those of us who actually live in Surrey B.C., as you may know, listeners may know, that Depictions Media is not only based in Surrey B.C., but I also reside in South Surrey, and the situation is this, and this is one of Paul's big concerns, is switching from the national policing system, or the RCMP, to a city-based police system would be the Surrey PD. And so, Paul, why don't we get into this, and what are some of your big concerns about actually switching to from the RCMP?
Okay. Well, speaking for myself and the organisation I represent, which is the Keep the RCMP in Surrey campaign, quite obviously our principal concern is keeping the RCMP in Surrey. In terms of actual benefits and service to the people of Surrey, of retaining the RCMP, there are many reasons why it is a good idea to keep the RCMP in our community, and a very bad reason to introduce an unknown force which is essentially reportable and accountable only to one individual in Surrey, and that is Mayor McCallum. First of all, in the briefest possible terms, the situation is that if Mayor McCallum's pet police project goes forward, we will have in Surrey a police force that has less police members. We will get less police public safety coverage, and we will be paying more tax dollars. So that is, put in its most simplest term, the biggest issue. The belief of the vast majority of people who support our organisation, and I just mentioned that some 45,000 citizens, residents of Surrey, signed our petition to keep the RCMP in Surrey. Our big concern is that, and belief is that the RCMP have served Surrey loyally and honourably for the last 70 years, since 1951. This year is the 70th anniversary of the RCMP in Surrey. We believe that they are the finest police force in the world, and we would like to keep them in our community.
Well, okay, so you said you counted how many people signed your petition again?
45,000. And this petition was presented to the provincial government at the cabinet offices in downtown Vancouver approximately 2 months ago. And since that time, we have not, and we were assured going to be and was transmitted to Victoria for the personal attention of Premier Horgan and his government, and we never even had the courtesy of an acknowledgement that it had been received. And furthermore, that is symptomatic of the treatment that we've had from all of the sitting NDP MLAs in Surrey, all 6 of them. They have never once in the year or so that we have been aggressively, visibly, politely, civilly campaigning, never once had the courtesy to return a phone call, an email, a letter, whether it was delivered hard copy, recorded post. We've never had the courtesy of a response from any sitting MLA of the NDP caucus in Surrey. So we're feeling very ignored and very aggrieved. And I would particularly also like to reference the fact that Premier Farnworth, Solicitor General Farnworth, Minister responsible for public safety, has received innumerable emails, letters, communications, including one handed to him personally by our organisation leader, Ivan Scott, coordinator of our campaign. Never once have we had an acknowledgement. We have had acknowledgements to our letters, direct letters to him from his bureaucrats. Invariably, they never answer the questions or address the concerns that we express. We just get bureaucratic doublespeak, gobbledygook, and bafflegab. And to put it mildly, we're more than somewhat incensed by this. Their behaviour, and bad as it is exceeded in its rudeness and discourtesy by Mayor McCallum, who, if anything, is worse. This individual not only also doesn't respond to telephone calls, emails, letters, or any other form of normal communication. He's actively and vindictively gone out of his way to do everything he can to impede, obstruct, and stifle our voice as a campaign trying to keep the RCMP in Surrey. Just as an example, on Canada's national birthday, he banned us from exercising our democratic right by collecting signatures in a public park. That was on Canada Day. He's repeatedly denied our request to appear before him and council as a delegation, and on and on and on.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong here. We do live in a democracy, and if you at the number of signatures that you've already collected, you would seem to represent a large number of voting individuals in Surrey B.C.
Yes, the people who signed our petition represent the diversity cross-section of community and society that we live in. Mm-hmm. Every gender balanced, age, spread the same. I would like to make particular reference to the fact that ethnic groups, doesn't matter what ethnic or group or religious affiliation you have, the overwhelming majority, support our petition. So we can tell, for example, from the names on our 45,000 signature petition that at least 10,000 of them are from the South Asian community. And I mention that particularly because one of the most disgusting gutter politics I've ever seen in my 30 years in British Columbia, instigated by Mayor McCallum, and paid a lot of attention to by John Horgan and Mike Farmer's provincial government, was they seemed to pay more attention to a 6-person petition from 6 temple leaders than they did to a petition from 45,000 Surrey citizens concerned. And our position on that was we were under the clear impression that we live in a democracy and not a theocracy. Religion, ethnic background has absolutely nothing to do with provision of public safety services that apply to all of us equally as citizens of Canada, not of one ethnic or religious group or another.
Mm-hmm. Well, and our elected officials should listen to us and also act in accordance to what the general opinion of the populace is, right? In other words, they should, if we citizens say that we want the Surrey PD, then we get Surrey PD. If we as citizens say, hey, we are very well happy with our RCMP, we like the benefits that they bring to us, either with having a national force for investigations and for law enforcement, being able to tap into deeper resources, and actually have a larger number of officers protecting us, then that's what we should get, shouldn't we?
Well, I think I understand your question there, Michael.
In other words, if we want the RCMP, we should have the RCMP, not Surrey PD.
Exactly. I think what our position is very simple. We believe that such a significant and dramatic change in public safety for our community, that the people need to understand the full implications. They need to understand the costs. They need to understand what level of service they could expect. I mean, obviously, we support the RCMP being in our community for a variety of reasons. I mean, it's not just the normal community services response to violent crimes and so on. The RCMP here in Surrey have a much broader responsibility for border security, for example, they have laboratory forensic resources that a municipal police force simply doesn't have. We believe that they are much better equipped professionally, trained to deal with the situation in Surrey, which is, as you know, British Columbia's most rapidly growing community. And, I hope I've answered your question there.
Yeah.
Our position is that we want to be consulted, and we believe that the final decision on whether to proceed with Mayor McCallum's pet police project or keep the RCMP should be a decision made by the people of Surrey, either through the form of a referendum or at the next municipal election, or by the immediate introduction in the next sitting of the legislature of recall legislation, which for municipal politicians, which would enable us, we believe, to recall Mayor McCallum and his coalition in a heartbeat, and we would. No question about that. This is a one-man obsession to impose a police force that is not wanted, not needed in our city, that would cost the taxpayer more and ultimately end up with less police officers. Now, I would also like to add as well, this police transition, we don't really know the full cost of what the transition would be, because the Opal report had 25% of its report redacted, unknown to the public. We don't know what it's going to be, and we feel that we should. The information is not being made available to the public. It's hidden, it's deceptive, and certainly not transparent, and it hasn't been inclusive of the community groups in our city. And I would particularly like to mention there has been absolutely no consultation by either the provincial government or Mayor McCallum's city government with First Nations, something which the provincial government expressly signed on to with the UN Declaration of Indigenous Human Rights. First Nations haven't been consulted, and they're not the only group in our community who have not been included and not consulted.
Well, it seemed like as soon as McCallum got elected, this was like almost number one thing on his agenda was to start working on this, and it seemed that it didn't matter what anybody else thought. He was just going to go forward with this because this is his pet project, and not that it's wanted by any of the other citizens of Surrey at all.
Well, you're right. I mean, from day one, this has been a personal vendetta, in my opinion. This is just my personal opinion. A vendetta by Mayor McCallum against the RCMP for reasons which he could probably answer better, but there are all sorts of speculations for what that might be, and so on. But from day one, he and his coalition have been thoroughly dishonest with the people of Surrey. Two of his councillors ran for election without disclosing the fact that they didn't even live in Surrey. One lived in White Rock and the other one lived in Delta. And, we go on and on. His living girlfriend, Councillor Patton, actually purported to be a medical doctor, and that was on all of her election literature, when she was no such thing. She's a naturopathic doctor. She was disciplined and fined by a professional association for misrepresenting herself, and that still didn't stop her, because she still has in recent weeks been purporting with her name badge, photographs in the media, to be a doctor when she's no such thing.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I since I've lived in Surrey for the past 15 years, Surrey, for the most part, yes, there have been a handful of gangland things happen, but for the most part, this is a very safe place to live, and that has to be attributed to the RCMP.
Yes, indeed, yeah. So, you're right.
Yeah. So, if we look at the Vancouver police, is like from statistically when I get that they haven't done any better of a job than the RCMP. It seemed the RCMP has done a better job here in Surrey than they have done in Vancouver with the Vancouver PD.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely, they've done. The RCMP have done a way better job in Surrey, mm-hmm. And I think that their efforts to involve themselves in the community are very commendable. One of McCallum's assertions is that RCMP officers don't live in the community, or they don't come from the community, or they're going to be rotated out back to Ottawa or back east or whatever, which is absolute and total nonsense. These guys live here, they work here, they act as coaches for our children and our grandchildren for baseball, football, soccer, you name it. They live and work. And the most extraordinary aspect of McCallum's new police force proposal is that the whole thing would be conditional, he says, on RCMP officers transferring. RCMP officers transferring over to the new municipal police force, which in my opinion is highly unlikely. And Mr. McCallum, to put it mildly, has been economic with the truth. In fact, no, I'll take it further. He's out and out lied, claiming that 60% of the RCMP officers in Surrey have communicated to him that they would like to work for his new police force. A blatant, absolute, calculated, unmitigated lie.
Okay, so what would be the absolute? I'm thinking about this as an employee. That why would I leave especially if I'm a seasoned officer? I have the potential for a full pension. Can Surrey produce that? When that there's all kinds of other benefits that the seasoned officers would already be privy to as being seasoned through the RCMP, having years of experience and time in service with the RCMP. They're going to leave all that for something lesser?
Right. Well, my understanding, I'm not an expert on municipal or police pensions, but my understanding is that the RCMP's new union, I think they're called the National Federation of Police Officers, mm-hmm. They would negotiate, if any, changes to pensions and all the rest of it. My understanding also is that's a very complex issue that's going to require lengthy and prolonged negotiation. Again, our understanding as a campaign to keep the RCMP in Surrey, and many of our volunteers have family who are members of the RCMP and so on. Our understanding, clear understanding, is few, if any, current Surrey RCMP officers are in the slightest bit interested in transferring to Mayor McCallum's new police force. Just not going to happen.
It wouldn't. It just doesn't seem like that would be. It just doesn't make sense to leave the RCMP to join the Surrey PD.
Well, Absolutely right. And I mean, even more so in the current COVID-19 situation, which I think has been going, it seems to have gone on forever, but I think it's been going on now for about 2.5, nearly 3 months. You have to remember, Mayor McCallum has taken $250 million plus off the municipal budget to allocate it to his pet police transition. This money was earmarked and promised for municipal infrastructure. It was supposed to be going to programs that help the poor, the dispossessed, the needy in our community. All of this is now going to a police transition. At the same time, he laid off 2,000 plus city workers. He has hired 10 very high-paid senior managers to oversee this police transmission, and one of whom was recently recruited from Delta Police to head up the communications for the supposed new police board. I mean, if any, could there be anything that shows less concern and consideration for the city workers? We, in our campaign, have to correct ourselves quite frequently. We talk about the city of Surrey doing this, city of Surrey doing that. I want to be clear on this. We're referring to Mayor McCallum and his gang of incompetence. We are not referring to the hard-working men and women who do so much in our community, from working in the rec centres to collecting our garbage to tending our parks and all the other essential services. This is a very small group of seemingly unaccountable individuals on council. They have a majority of one on council at the moment, and they're inflicting this misery on our community. And on talking of misery, Michael, if I could just mention for a moment, often overlooked in this discussion are the RCMP members and their families themselves. Imagine being, the wife or a husband of an RCMP member, and you're thinking about paying your mortgage and putting your children through school and having a family life and all the rest of it. Now this uncertainty has been introduced in July. Not a pleasant situation.
No.
And it's one that Mayor McCallum, I believe, has very, very badly handled and mishandled, and it's got to stop. And our campaign tactic is very simple. The petition didn't work. It got us a lot of publicity, and people paid attention. We had very positive coverage in the media, who, generally speaking, I think have been very fair, but supportive of our position overall, I think. Our position is really simple. We are going to hold the politicians accountable. We have already publicly stated, if we can push this out to the next municipal election before a decision is made, we will vote Mayor McCallum and his crew out immediately. And we intend to hold the government NDP caucus members to account as well. And if they do not change tack very quickly and give us a referendum or halt this process, come the next provincial election, and we're only a year away, we'll vote them out as well. And we'll consider everything in our list of options to do so. It's a little bit late for us to initiate recall against an MLA that's less than a year, but so we've missed out on that one. And I would also, like to mention the BC Liberal opposition. They have been equally derelict with their MLAs in representing and expressing the concerns of the citizens of Surrey to the government of the day, which, as official opposition, is their duty bound to do. We have written many, many times to Andrew Wilkinson, leader of the opposition. Never got a response from him. Not one MLA in Surrey, other than Marvin Hunt, has ever publicly come out and voiced concerns about this transition. Only one elected official, Ken Hardy, MP, has come out and called for a referendum. The rest have just sat on their butts and done nothing.
So, just to wrap things up here, because we are going to start to run out of time soon.
I'm sorry, Mike, I can't hear you.
I say we're going to run out of time soon, so just to wrap things up,
Yep.
you have lawn signs and things like that to get attention. How can people get a hold of that lawn sign to put it up if they're against they're for the RCMP?
Yes, we keep the RCMP in Surrey lawn sign. We're now approaching 2,000 that we've delivered. The best way for your listeners to get hold of them is actually, as you did, to look at the bottom of the lawn sign. You'll see the name Ivan Scott and a telephone number. Just ring the number, order a lawn sign. We'll get a volunteer out to deliver it to you within a few days, subject to availability. They're going very, very, very quickly.
Okay.
And, we're very pleased. We're very pleased with the response we're getting from the community on that. We order these signs at 1,000 a pop. We order 1,000 at a go. They cost 5,000 for 1,000 lawn signs. We get donations. People give us donations. We actually are collecting more money than the cost of the signs. We have set ourselves an objective of 12,000 signs in our community by the end of August. That's going to cost us 60,000. We're very confident that will all come from donations from ordinary citizens, the length, breadth, north, east, south, and west of the city of Surrey. And that should be a message to every politician. Get on side. The community does not want this transition. We want to keep the RCMP in Surrey.
And I agree with you 100% that that the average person here in Surrey does want to keep the RCMP, and the RCMP has done a wonderful job thus far. Why disband them now?
Thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate your support, and happy to talk to you anytime.
Okay, so thanks for joining us today, Paul. And I'll make sure that you actually get a copy of this so that you can put it out through your channels also because I think it's important that people know the truth about what is going on, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be a vote towards it for us citizens, and there should at least be that we get to vote on it.
Yeah. Michael, if I could just close very quickly by saying I'd encourage your listeners to, and you as well, to visit our Facebook page, Keep the RCMP in Surrey, and secondly, to visit our Twitter account, Keep the RCMP in Surrey. And if you send a copy of this podcast to us, or to me, we'll post it on our Facebook page, and hopefully, we'll get more people listening to your program. And again, thank you for your support.
You're very welcome, and thank you for joining us today. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.